Here are all my favorite historical romances of this year. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now for today's video, I am doing my best historical romances of 2021 part 2. So if you guys haven't watched it yet already, I did upload a part 1 in mid half of the year because I read so many historical romances this year and I was just so excited about them because they were all chef's kiss, 4 out of 5 stars, 5 out of 5 stars, recommendations that I just wanted my viewers to read as of this year, that I uploaded part 1 a little bit earlier, and now I'm doing part 2. With that being said, part 2 is a little bit shorter because I didn't find too many gems in the sea of historical romances that I did pick up for the later half of this year. So expect this video to be a little bit short, but once again, I have many historical romance recommendations videos posted on my channel. So definitely go check those out to add more books to your TBR if this video does not satisfy your historical romance cravings. So I think the first book that I want to talk about that is one of my favorite romances of this year is called About a Rogue by Caroline Linden. Now, Caroline Linden is a new to me author from this year that I greatly appreciate. I appreciate her so much that I ended up buying majority of her backlisted titles because of this one single book. I was just so captivated by her writing style. I was so captivated by her characters that I had to order all her books that I didn't own already. So About a Rogue follows a marriage of convenience trope. Our heroine needs to be married because A, she is a female, and B, she's from that regency time period where women can't really do anything without a man. And her father actually wants her to get married and see her happily in this marriage and have children and things like that and carry on what normal ladies typically do. Our heroine is kind of like a feminist. She doesn't want to get married because she wants to have her own autonomy. She wants her independence. She wants the ability to run her family's business and just be a creative director in the family business. Her family business is pottery and like making bowls and cups and dishes. So it's already interesting with our female heroine and her weird occupation that we typically don't see. But regardless, she does get forced to be in this marriage of convenience and she is grumpy about it. She's not happy because she thinks that her husband will basically control her and not allow her to do the things that she wants to do. But little does she know, she married like the perfect man on earth. This man is setting the bar up so high for other Regency romance heroes and also for real men in real life. But basically our hero is so supportive of her, never tells her no, tells her to shoot for the moon and land among the stars. They have these great conversations together about building the business, how to build better products, how to expand their business line. And they have a marriage where they actually talk about their emotions, they talk about what's bothering them, and it's a very healthy marriage. So if you guys are looking for something a little bit different from the Regency historical romances that you have read this year, definitely check this one out because it's been a long time since I've read one where a healthy marriage exists and the issues that the marriage goes through are relatable issues that happen in real life. So the next book that I want to talk about that I really enjoyed is actually this one from Loretta Chase. This one's called A Duke in Shining Armor. It's part of her duology called A Difficult Dukes series. Now, me and Loretta Chase didn't really get along too well because I read one of her really popular novels that lots of people were talking about on Bookstagram, and I ended up not really liking it. So I wasn't really expecting much when I was reading this book, but lo and behold, I really enjoyed this one. This one follows our heroine who unfortunately has to marry someone that she doesn't want to marry, and to build up that courage of her marrying this guy that she does have like no love for, she ends up drinking, obviously, and she gets drunk. And she thought that she would have some liquid courage to go through with the wedding, but turns out it didn't help her at all. And now she wants to jump out of the window and run away. And then now our heroine's fiance's best friend is tasked to go retrieve her and to go find her because she jumped out of the window. And then he, like, in return, jumped out of the window chasing after her. And this whole book takes in the course of like kind of like a day and a couple of days where they go on this road trip romance journey where he's trying to convince her that she's going to be happy in this marriage. You know, there's things that she can look forward to being married to this guy, but also slowly falling in love with our heroine, and our heroine being very adamant now that she can't marry her fiance because she's actually in love with her fiance's best friend. And I thought that this one was so fun. Like, there's so many different wacky situations that did take place because it is a road trip romance. and it kept me entertained. It wasn't like too zany, it wasn't too crazy, and I can definitely see this book being a favorite of some of you and being a least favorite for some of you guys too, because it's just on that borderline of craziness and unethical, because you're literally trying to convince your best friend's fiance to marry him, but then ending up stealing the fiance, which is, you know, an unethical situation. So the next book that I want to recommend is a book that I've talked about in many videos already in my recommendation videos, even on my book talk that I've since given up on. But this one is called Third Son's a Charm by Shannon Galen, and it's part of her Survivor series. It's book number 1. It follows our heroine who is actually in love with someone, and she is totally smitten by him. She's willing to run away and do all these crazy things with this guy, but the problem is that her father does not approve of this guy, because this guy's a little bit shady, he's a little bit slick, he's just kind of a little bit weird. And once you read the book and once you start it, you start realizing that the person that she's in love with is not a good person. So our heroine's father actually hires a bodyguard to restrict her from moving freely, basically, and to go on these midnight adventures where she escapes the house and meets up with her lover slash her crush. Our hero is the bodyguard. Our hero is grumpy. This is a grumpy sunshine trope. They bicker a lot. They go head to head in a lot of different situations. They just don't get along, but there is a mutual attraction between these two characters. Our hero is a darker character. He came from like special wars and missions that he had to complete, where he obviously had to kill a lot of people, and he doesn't want to taint our heroine with his background because she is a blue stocking. She's like really rich. She's like meant to be married to someone who's very clean and has not killed someone. So he fights his attraction for her in this book a lot, and it's super cute. I really enjoyed it, and there's also a dog in this book too as well. So the next book that is one of my favorite books of this year is No Earls Allowed. This is actually book 2 in the same series from Shannon Galen, and this one I really enjoyed too as well. It's a starchy, stoic hero with a happy-go-lucky heroine. So our heroine is like an heiress. She's really rich, she's really wealthy, but she's not spoiled, because what she really wants to do is save these underprivileged kids in the orphanage. So she actually volunteers her time a lot running this orphanage, making sure that the boys are bathed and cleaned, making sure that all the children are fed, and that they're going with their English lessons, you know, they're going with their lessons, they're learning, and they're bettering themselves. Her father doesn't want her to put so much effort into this, because she should put more effort into entering the marriage mart and to finding a suitable husband. So once again, our heroine's father hires a person to go retrieve her and to go bring her back into the city so that she can get married. She does not obviously want this, and she ends up, you know, standing her ground and arguing with him a lot. And he's tired. He's like, you know what, screw this. If you're not going to come with me, then I'm just going to stay here and help out. So he ends up helping out around the orphanage, and it's so freaking cute with our hero actually training the little kids, making them tiny little soldiers, teaching them how to be better people, teaching them how to read, write, and fight. And it's just so cute to watch these two characters work together to raise these children, because it makes you feel like that they are actually a family. And our hero obviously has a dark past too. He comes from the same line of business as book number 1, where he was a special soldier and he had to kill a lot of people. He has to taint her with all his memories and his dark secrets. And obviously there are villains in the past that want to hurt him and her in this story too as well. So if you're looking for a fun, adventurous read, definitely check this one out. So the next book that I want to talk about is actually from an author that I haven't placed on my best books of historical romance videos so far. It's Vivian Lorette. She has written a lot of books, but most of her reads for me has been a 3 out of 5 stars or something that I just can't really remember, so they're not very notable. But this one I really liked. So this is called The Wrong Marquee, and it's book number 3 in the Hating Habits of Scoundrels series. Now, this follows our heroine being in love with the wrong person. So our heroine is actually in love with the guy next door. You know, she has put in so much effort, so much work into perfecting herself, making herself stand out among the other ladies, and to really captivate her crush's attention. But the problem is that her crush's best friend is always in the way and causing a lot of issues for her. And now what's actually happening is that our heroine's crush's best friend is actually our hero, and our hero has been in love with her for quite some time, very smitten with her, and he tries throughout the whole book to seduce her, to make her see that the right person for her is him all along. And I found this one to be really funny. It was really cute because he was always just like, look at me, don't look at him, look at me, focus on me. And I just love those types of romances where the hero falls in love with the heroine first, and he now needs to convince her that he is the one. So the next book that I want to talk about is actually a novella that I really enjoyed. And this is from an author that I recently discovered this year. Her name is Nicola Davison, and this novella is called The Devil's Submission. It's actually book number 2 in the Fallen series. And I read the whole Fallen series. I really like it. It's a very hot, steamy historical romance series that everybody needs to check out if they're looking for a little bit more steam in the historical romances. Basically, our hero runs like this gentleman's club where sexual fantasies can exist with consent and with women who are willing to do it, obviously. Our hero is also married to our heroine, but what happened is that they had a separation that took place after they got married. So they thought that they were in love. They thought that they had a very passionate marriage too as well, but soon he kind of broke things off and he removed himself from the marriage, and she was hurt by it. So then she left the marriage, and they both were living in separate estates for a very, very long time. But our heroine makes another appearance in his life, and our heroine actually wants to be part of his life because she actually loved him and she wants to spend the rest of her life with him. But then afterwards, he's still very cold and closed off. So she researches and tries to understand why he's like that, and turns out he has a dark past that has resulted in him in having a sort of a kink. And because of that kink, he doesn't feel comfortable being around this woman who is, innocent and who doesn't know what kinks are and doesn't know what his fantasies are. So they have like this relationship where they finally speak out about his fantasies, where they enact in his fantasies, and that they are more open and intimate with each other. And I just really enjoyed this one. I never expected this one to be as emotional as it was, and I just can't recommend this one enough, and also Nicola Davison enough. So the last book that I want to talk about that is part of my best books of 2021 for historical romance is How to Capture a Countess by Karen Hawkins, and it's book number 1 in the Duchess Diaries series. Now, I feel like this one is loosely based on that movie with Anne Hathaway called The Princess Diaries, but I could be wrong. But our heroine and our hero were once in love with each other when they were teenagers, and they thought that they were going to finally like come out as a couple and they're going to start courting and things like that. But what happened was that she accidentally pushes him into a water fountain because she's so flustered from their kiss, and she accidentally ends up humiliating him. So he sets out the rest of his life basically for the next like 8 years where he wants to enact revenge on her and to make her the laughingstock. So when the opportunity comes to have this garden family party, he invites her, knowing fully well that she would attend and that he would be setting her up for failure and for setting her up for humiliation. And they kind of have this enemies to lovers romance where they bicker back and forth, where they prank each other, where things don't go well as planned, and then they obviously put the jokes aside and then they fall in love. I never expected this one to be so funny. I never expected this one to be so light and so airy, and it made me so happy when I was reading it. And definitely that is one of the main criteria for why I love a book. If I can giggle, if I can feel my heart flutter, it's one of my best books. So I really enjoyed this one, and soon after I finished this Karen Hawkins book, I ended up buying all her backlisted copies too as well, because I just really, really wanted to read more of her fun, airy historical romances. But anyways, that is it for all the historical romances that I would recommend you to check out of this year, because they're my best books. This is part number 2. Watch part number 1 if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys again next time in a new video. Bye.